hi everyone. For today's session, we have Marion with us. So thank you, Marion, for taking today's time out for session. So I will straight away continue with the questions
Okay.
from here. So based on your experience, how can we balance the need for formal performance assessment with informal day-to-day feedback and coaching?
Okay, well, that's a really important one. And the formal and the informal piece being symbiotic is really important, right? Um, my research, my academic research is all around psychological safety and why psychological safety is absolutely essential in an organization to be able to do anything, really, right? I believe that psychological safety is as fundamental um, as organizational culture. In fact, you can't really develop a productive and enjoyable organizational culture if you don't have psychological safety. So I think that that is absolutely paramount. And just for clarity, psychological safety is where employees as a group feel that they are able to share ideas, make mistakes, learn from those mistakes. They can provide feedback, where they feel safe to be able to do that. Um, so I think in the context of your question, that piece of psychological safety is essential because if we don't feel safe, it then makes performance management very difficult. It then becomes a very terse, tension, stressful experience. And I think that's the big missing link. How many times have you been in an organization where that sense of shared safety isn't there and performance management has felt very mechanical, very tick box, and in
Right.
fact completely misses the point of why it's important. The idea of it is to help people be the best versions of themselves at work, to progress, to learn, to develop. And you can't do that if you don't feel safe. And if it feels transactional and it's very tick box, what's the point, right? It's a waste of time for everybody. So I think that balancing the need with the formal and the informal is that fundamental foundation of psychological safety, then building the strong relationship with, manager to report, whichever direction that's going. So again, you have that sense of rapport and safety. And then that's where the more methodical performance management piece can really be effective. If you don't have the underlying piece, it will never work.
Okay, it was a great insight. Moving on to the next question. Could you discuss how to handle situation where employees consistently fail to meet their performance goals and what support can be offered to help them improve?
Sure. I have a really simple mantra that I have used forever in my people career. And it's actually a tool that applies in pretty much any situation. I believe that there's 4 C's that are really important: common sense, courage, compassion, communication, right? And those 4 C's apply in any situation. So if you apply it to this particular situation, when you have an employee who's consistently not performing, you know, it's you have to go in with open eyes and open heart and common sense, right? What could be happening here? Is there something happening, in the person's personal life? Was this someone who was always a top performer and it's dropped off? Is there anything that you see or any of your peers see that could be a contributing issue? Again, do you have that relationship to understand if maybe they have something going on at home? We know that we don't live our lives in boxes, so whatever happens outside of work will always in some way impact us in work, right? Um, the courage to speak up is really important. I think sometimes, particularly those who are younger in their managerial journey, might not feel comfortable or confident addressing performance issues. They've maybe not got the support, they've not had the training, whatever that might be. So that courage is really important as well. And then it's the communication, right? If we're going
Yeah.
to address performance issues, we have to communicate, we have to be candid, we have to be really thoughtful and meaningful with our feedback. and having those, really honed feedback skills to then be able to communicate in an effective way where the employee doesn't feel that they're, they're at risk and it's a really bad situation and they're going to lose their job. Like, no, sometimes it's just about saying, hey, I've noticed that, you're not your normal self and, what you were doing before, which seemed to be really easy for you, now is taking longer or it's incomplete or whatever it might be. And,
Yeah.
you know, let's explore that. Tell me more about that and really encourage them to feel safe that they can share with you. At the end of the day, sometimes it's as simple as the person is checked out for whatever reason, and they're maybe on their way out. They've decided that it's not for them, they want to do something else. And that happens, that's real life. But often it's other things that get in the way that can be easily addressed, uh, whether it be communication, access to your leader, maybe it's compensation, whatever it might be. So just really taking the time to go deeper and really explore with that person what the root cause is, and then take it from there.
So what you are trying to say is that a clear communication with the manager and the employee helps a lot, right?
Yeah, but it's all the things that go with that. The clear communication, using your common sense, having the courage to speak up in the first place. And most of all, I think compassion. Compassion and empathy are absolutely critical to all of it.
Yeah, agreed. The next question that we have is, according to you, what role does feedback play in managing performance failure, and how can we provide constructive feedback that helps employees improve?
Mm. So delivering feedback training is something that I've done a lot of over my career. And I was always very much a fan of, the feedback grid. Not everybody knows this tool, but it's basically where you can qualify feedback as being specific positive, specific negative, general positive, general negative, right? So if I said to you, I like your top, I like your shirt, your blouse, and you're like, okay, why do you like my blouse? Because it's a positive general statement. I like it, but I'm
Yeah,
not saying why I like it, right? But if I said, I really like your blouse because it brings out the color of your eyes, it's really on trend, I think it looks really flattering on you, then I'm giving you very specific feedback, right? So you know
definitely.
why. And it's the same in the negative context. If you say to someone, you didn't do a good job, oh, okay, like what do I do with that? That's useless, right? And it can be really hurtful. It can be really demoralizing when you're negative and you're not specific. But if you say, that piece of work you turned in um, wasn't up to your usual standard, I think maybe there's something up. Let's sit together and see how we could improve on that, right? So I'm giving you a
Yeah.
very specific piece of feedback and I am giving you support and an action to carry it forward. So I've always lived by that sort of rule. Um, Someone I look up to, a mentor of mine, recently educated me on the notion of feed forward, which I actually have started to really miss. Instead of using the word feedback, where we're constantly reflecting back to something in the past, it's about modifying your language. And instead of saying, I noticed this and this happened then, it's about saying, going forward, it would be really great to see you do this, right? So focus on the future rather than the past. And it's something I'm really trying to adopt into my day-to-day practice.
I'll try to adopt that too. Okay. Moving on to the next question. Can you suggest some strategies which can be followed to keep a track of performance of employees on a continuous basis?
Yeah, I mean, obviously technology, right, is like, a fundamental thing, right? Um,
Yeah.
any organizations that are still using paper reviews and things need to take a serious look at themselves because in 2023, we shouldn't be doing that. And also using tools that help remove as much bias as possible. So I think technology is a fundamental strategy. Um, I think also related to this answer is the training of your leaders and your employees because, to be able to have a robust process, everybody has to understand the process and they have to be aligned with the process. You have to understand the why. So for it to be effective, investing that time into helping everybody understand the why and why it's important to stick to this, performance cycle and use the tools that are available, I think is absolutely essential.
Sure. The last question that we have for today's session is when performance failure occur, what resources or support system can we offer to help employees get back on their track and succeed in their roles?
The biggest thing is encouragement. If someone's in a place where they're underperforming, there's a lot of emotions that come with that: shame, embarrassment, worry, stress, anxiety, like a lot of really heavy negative emotions. And that doesn't necessarily put someone immediately in a great place to want to be like, hey, I'm going to perform, I'm going to crush it, right? So I think helping someone really navigate those emotions, and I think always approaching any performance management activity with positive intent. We hear about performance improvement plans being used, being tools to terminate, right? And in many organizations, that's the case. And that is absolutely unforgivable because that is not the purpose. The purpose is to say, hey, I've noticed there's this um, challenge in your performance. Let's put in a plan to help you really hone that skill and turn it around and get you to where you need to be. So I think approaching everything with positive intent and authenticity, being genuine about what you're saying, absolutely essential because at the end of the day, if you don't psychologically set that person up for success, they've already failed. And shame on the person who's put them in that position.
Okay, thank you. So with this, we come to an end of today's session. Thank you so much. It was lovely talking to you. Your whatever you told, I completely agree with that, and it was of great help. Thank you so much.
Thank you.